Thank you so much for that no applause this morning as I come to the podium. Joe, where is the love? A four-time nationally ranked college out of more than 1,100 in the nation, a five-star chamber, incredible sponsors, an incredible assembly. Give you all a round of applause, everybody. Yes, indeed, this is a beautiful day. This is a beautiful, beautiful day. Let me say at the onset that, the beauty, I believe, for most leaders is that you may come up with a vision, but it certainly takes a lot of really talented people to make it happen. I want to definitely say on the front end to Kevin O'Neill, when we had this conversation well over a year ago, that I was putting him as the lead in terms of this two-part approach with the recent road trip that we did to Greenville-Spartanburg and the Symposium, that those two efforts would align with all of the regional and local efforts, maximizing economic development, certainly addressing the various challenges, as we know, with a skilled workforce, and certainly, as we like to say in the West, that the West is best. So I definitely want to thank all the members of the committee, all the members of the team in terms of making that happen. Let me also recognize all of our elected officials. We have several today, so if you're an elected official, if you can stand and be recognized. All of our elected officials this morning, let's stand and recognize. Well, we have a packed agenda, and I want to not delay the day any further. So we want to begin with some remarks from our principal sponsors. Paducah Bank, CEO and Chair of the Board, Joe Frampton, and President and COO Marty Herndon. They jumped on board immediately as we shared the vision for this event, and it's with great gratitude and appreciation that I thank you for your support. And this time I would ask you both to come forward and make some remarks. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. This is the Joe and Marty Show. I'm here in three capacities this morning and delighted to see all of you here. First, I'm a citizen of Paducah-McCracken County and thus this region. Our economic well-being and quality of life depends on our region, not our community or your county. It depends on our region. So I applaud this effort. Secondly, I'm here as a longtime member of the PJC Board of Trustees. And I'm delighted that that board has chosen to sponsor this. And I applaud Dr. Reese's vision. Thank you for getting this organized. It's your idea. And I want to thank particularly Kevin O'Neill and Lee Emmons, both of whom, along with other members of that staff, have made this happen. As you know, it's not easy. And thirdly, I'm here as chair of Paducah Bank. We're delighted to sponsor this meeting. I work every day with our very competent and capable President and Chief Operating Officer, Marty Herndon, and he's going to take the rest of my 3 minutes.
I'll try to stick to the time on that, Joe. We're very pleased to sponsor today's event. I was speaking with Dr. Reese prior, and it was about a year ago, I guess, when he shared the vision for the bus trip and also the Regional Economic Development Symposium. And to pull that off, it was amazing. You've got a great team, Kevin and others, that worked on this. So again, just kudos to WKCTC for the leadership that's shown. To make this happen, it does take leadership. It also takes collaboration. It takes creativity. And I think you can overlay those same traits around economic development, whether you're talking about a specific community or if you're speaking about a region or a state. It does take leadership. It takes creativity. And it certainly takes collaboration to make it happen. Paducah Bank has been a part of this community for more than 7 decades. We've been a driver of economic development. We make loans for small companies, for large companies to reinvest in our community. We provide funding for homes for families that are growing and continue to grow within our community. And we certainly partner with nonprofits and agencies within our community and give probably the most meaningful contribution back, and that's our time. We're on pace this year to contribute more than 6,000 hours back to the community, and we're very proud of that. So we're grateful to WKCTC. We're grateful to the leadership that is here in this region. It's nice to see our surrounding counties represented as well. So collaboration is key, and I applaud the effort that you put forth, and we're proud to sponsor. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Wow, no, it gives me great privilege to introduce to some, and certainly welcome our own Congressman James Comer, who we know was elected to Congress in November of 2016. Congressman Comer grew up in rural Monroe County and later attended Western Kentucky University, which I shared earlier. Going to Eastern Kentucky University was an OVC rival Superior School, but I digress. He and my wife has that in common. After his election in 2000, he served for 6 terms as a member of the Kentucky State House, where he was lauded for his success as a legislator. Congressman Comer again was elected Kentucky's Commissioner of Agriculture in 2011. He's married to T.J. Comer, and they have 3 children, Reagan, Harlan, and Aniston. Please give a warm welcome to Congressman James Comer.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Oh, please. Well, thank you. It's a great morning to be out in Paducah and to come and see the quality crowd that's here, the business and community leaders in the Paducah area. It's very encouraging. It's encouraging as we look to set goals and achieve those goals. Paducah is the economic engine of this region. Most of you all know what my congressional district looks like. It's 35 counties. There's a political science term for the way the line's drawn. They call it gerrymandering. But for my friends in the state legislature who are here today, the state legislature is the one that draws the lines. It's gerrymandered in a beautiful way. I have no complaints with the way the line's drawn. But you have 35 counties in this congressional district, and Paducah and McCracken County is the biggest county and city in the congressional district. It's the economic engine. And what's encouraging to me when I come to Paducah to talk about economic development, I see the surrounding county judges, I see the surrounding mayors all here, the surrounding economic development directors, and you view economic development as regional and not county by county or city by city. If a plant goes to Ballard County, that's a win for Paducah. If a plant goes to Calvert City, that's a win for Paducah. A lot of communities don't recognize that and work together the way that you all do in West Kentucky. So before I say anything, I just want to thank you for working together. Appreciate Mayor Brandy for being here. Appreciate Senator Carroll and Representative Bridges and the state legislators who are here and all the economic development directors who are here. It's a team effort. And I think Paducah and this region has had great success in the past, but I think the future is very bright. And I look forward to working with you all in the future. I think that when you look at who needs to be taking the lead and who needs to be out front, certainly West Kentucky Technical School is out front doing everything right. I'm going to talk about the challenges that we have on a macro standpoint from the economy, but certainly this school is doing everything right as we try to train and improve our workforce for the next generation. A couple of things that I wanted to mention also. We passed legislation a few years ago, or I don't know if we passed legislation, but we made it possible for the first congressional district to be in the TVA corridor. That's just another networking opportunity, and your great Chamber of Commerce and West Kentucky Community College stepped out front. They've been active in that. I know they're having a meeting in Chattanooga in a few weeks, Dr. Reese and Sandra Wilson, and I'm sure that that's going to lead to more opportunities, more networking opportunities for this region and more success in the future. So I appreciate your all's leadership and willingness to be active and involved in that. You know, there's a lot going on in Washington besides the Mueller report and Ocasio-Cortez's Instagram account. So I wanted to mention a couple of things that we've been working on. It's great to see Morgan Alvey here with Senator McConnell. Senator McConnell's been very helpful to our office in the first 2.5 years that I've been in Congress, and appreciate them. But we had great success in 2017 in December when we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And I just filed my taxes. I have probably an average size small business. I talked to a lot of people in the last few weeks that have filed their federal taxes. overwhelming majority of people, if they made the same amount of income as they did the previous year, say they paid significantly less in federal taxes. One of the things that's never been mentioned about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, if you read the national stories, is that it benefited the working class, just disproportionately. And I'll give you an example. In our congressional district, 81% of the people take the standard deduction when they file their taxes. In other words, they do not itemize their taxes. So they have a W-2 and they go to an H&R Block or somewhere and they file their taxes. The standard deduction prior to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was $12,000. After the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it's $24,000. So the first $24,000 is federal income tax free. That was a pretty significant tax cut for 81% of the people in the 1st Congressional District. That 81% is one of the highest percentages of people that do not itemize their taxes in any congressional district in America represented by a Republican. So I think that's always important to throw out there, because a lot of times you see press, not the Paducah Sun or Channel 6, this is good press here, but the national cable networks will say that the rich and big businesses benefited more. Of course, more income you make, you're generally the more taxes you pay. So I think the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is working. The economy is still strong across the United States. We've focused on trying to reduce the regulatory burden. We've picked different industries out and gone down line by line with the regulatory burden. We've had committee hearings in Washington. We've had private meetings with leaders in different industries, whether it be the financial services industry, whether it be agriculture, whether it be the river industry, which is so important in this area. We've tried to sit down with the leaders in each industry and determine which regulations are needed, which regulations are not needed, which regulations need to be tweaked. And I think we're seeing with the regulatory reduction and the tax cuts, I think we're seeing this economy still heading in the right direction, still creating a good number of jobs every month, and starting to see wage inflation. Now, if you're a big employer, that may not be exciting to you, but one of the big problems when you poll American is that wages have remained stagnant for average working Americans, and we're starting to see some wage inflation, which honestly needed to happen. So I'm excited about that. It seems like every day when I read the Wall Street Journal or watch CNBC, there's another big company that's announcing they're raising their minimum wage. I think that's great. They're raising their minimum wage. The federal government's not passing a bill requiring them to raise their minimum wage. That's what we want. We want capitalism to work. We want the free market to work, and I think we're seeing that happen. There are two challenges that the economists tell us, and I believe, that we have as we move forward in this country. The first challenge is something that I know, speaking to a few people in this room that have been negatively affected by this, and that's the trade war that we're having. Unfortunately, for the 1st Congressional District of Kentucky, we have many industries that are on the front lines of the trade war. Agriculture certainly on the front lines of the trade war, but also the automotive parts industry is on the front lines of the trade war. You have a lot of companies in Kentucky that make parts for automobiles, especially in our congressional district, especially in West Kentucky. And the supply chain for those businesses has been significantly disrupted. We make things in the United States, but we still get a lot of the raw materials to make those things from other countries. And the supply chain's been disrupted. It's really created havoc on the bottom line for those companies. And we're doing everything we can, obviously, to work with the administration, encourage the administration to hopefully wrap up this deal with China. I've said this from day one, that nobody wanted to be in this trade war, but I felt like we had to do something in America. My congressional district is rural. Most of the counties that are represented here that aren't McCracken would be defined as rural counties. And if you look at what's happened in rural America, rural Kentucky, rural West Kentucky, you see that over the last 20 years, there have been industries that have been winners with the trade war. The agriculture is one of them. Certainly the river industry, because of the agriculture industry, has been a winner. But a lot of industries in small towns in rural Kentucky have been losers. Because when I was growing up in South Central Kentucky, every little community had a factory. And those factories paid living wages, and people were pretty happy living in those little communities. After NAFTA, which overall I think NAFTA's been positive for the most part for the 1st Congressional District, but it's been negative for a lot of rural communities. The new type of manufacturing jobs just didn't locate in those rural communities unless they had an interstate exit, rail, riverport, all the things that Paducah's blessed with. So the rural communities have struggled. And one reason they've struggled, and one reason we've seen a decline in manufacturing jobs in rural America, is because rural America's at a competitive disadvantage to countries like China. When China doesn't have the same environmental laws that we have, that makes it difficult. But even more difficult than anything, China has been doing things to make it impossible to compete, like stealing intellectual property, stealing patents. But the one thing that China has been doing to make it impossible to compete in manufacturing is currency manipulation. And that's a big part of what the negotiations now are with the Trump administration in China, to try to settle on how are we going to govern, how are we going to oversee the fact that you can't just manipulate your currency. If the United States needs to have a strong dollar, create an environment where the dollar's strong against China. If it needs to be weak, they do that. And it just makes it impossible to compete. The president and the majority of this Congress has stepped up and said, all right, we're going to go all in. They started with Mexico and Canada, and I think we got a good deal with Mexico and Canada. Most of the businesses that I've spoken with are very happy with that. Hopefully Congress will approve that. But now we're with China, and China's a difficult country to negotiate with. They are a lot bigger. They're in a lot better financial shape. They don't have the cable news channels and the media that we have. And again, not the Paducah Sun and Channel 6. We love you guys. But it makes it it makes it a lot easier for China to negotiate against the United States. But in speaking with Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue a few weeks ago, I feel like we're making progress. We had hoped this trade war would be ended by March. Obviously, it's April and getting really close to Derby, which is in May, so that's not what we wanted to see. But I think even though we're all experiencing short-term pain, I think there will be long-term gain as we move forward, because this is a battle that needed to happen. If we're going to enhance and revitalize our rural communities, we're going to have good-paying manufacturing jobs in those rural communities. Warren Buffett, who I'm a big fan of, even though he's very liberal, he writes a lot of books, and he's on a lot of the shows I watch on TV, and he says, we have to make things in the United States. We can't just outsource everything. We have to make some of the goods and supplies that we consume in the United States, or we're going to be in trouble. And I believe that if we don't get a free, fair trade agreement with China, that it was going to be more difficult for good-paying manufacturing jobs to happen in the United States. So the trade war and the tariff situation is a challenge. But the biggest challenge, and the second, and I think a bigger challenge than anything to every industry in the 1st Congressional District, is a shortage of labor. And that's what you're seeing here in this building, trying to make a difference on that. We obviously have a shortage of skilled labor. We have a shortage of workers in every field, whether it's construction, whether it's manufacturing. You look at the CDLs, the welders, the skilled positions. I bet in my congressional district there are 2,000 advertised openings for welders right now. And if you live in poverty and you get a certification to be a welder, you will get out of poverty pretty quickly. And in Liberty, which is in the eastern part of the congressional district, you have Tartar Industries. Tartar Industries makes everything that you see in the parking lot for the Tractor Supply stores. They make all the hay rings, the gates, the feed troughs, all that, the bush hogs, any little thing that's on the parking lot. They have 63 posting for welders right now. So, and 401k, health, dental, very good starting wages. And you see that all over Kentucky. So I'm excited about West Kentucky Community and Technical School. I'm excited that we're starting to see progress in our schools in Kentucky. Instead of sending kids and instilling in their minds, okay, if you're a smart kid, you need to graduate from high school and go to college and get a 4-year degree. It doesn't matter what it's in, but just get a degree. And I think we're starting to see slowly that parents and guidance counselors and leaders in the public schools are saying, wait a minute, we're sending these kids to college. They're getting a 4-year degree in marketing or management or something, and they're graduating with a lot of debt, and there's really not any job out there that will suit what they went to college for, much less pay a living wage. We're starting to see, I can tell a difference. I've been talking about this for a decade, but I'm starting to see as I go in more high schools, and we're going to, is it Graves County or Mayfield next, Marty? You know, Graves, going to Graves County next in Mayfield, but you're starting to see more kids say, I'm going where they used to, I'm going to go to Murray State or I'm going to go to Western, which are fine, great schools, but they're saying, I'm going to get a certification in this. I'm going to get 2 certifications. And I think that's the future. That's what industry wants. Those that are here today representing industry, we know what you want. We're trying to get more young people in school to focus on that, to focus on a career, to focus on being career ready when they graduate. And I just can't say enough good things about West Kentucky Community and Technical College. I know that Sandra Wilson and the chamber here and the mayor led a delegation a couple of years ago to Washington, and we met with Rick Perry. Obviously, he's the Secretary of Energy, so we have the DOE side out here that's so significant to this economy. But Rick Perry, if you'll remember, before he went to work in the Trump administration, was governor of Texas. No state has done better than Texas in growing their economy and creating good paying jobs. And when Rick Perry was talking about what you need to do in Paducah to grow the economy, he said, you got to have a good technical school there. And we do. We've got a great one. He said, well, that's great. You're already halfway there. And I think that as we move forward to try to grow the economy and focus on economic development in this region, we need to rely heavily on the infrastructure here to be able to train the next generation of workers and be able to update the skills for the existing industries that we have. And I know that that's happening. So I just wanted to stop in this morning and thank you for working together. That sounds simple, but I can tell you I've traveled all over Kentucky many times, many parts of the state. That doesn't happen everywhere. So you're thinking regionally, you're working together, you're on the team. You've got a great technical school here that's going to create the next generation of workforce. If you have a community today and you can demonstrate to a prospect that you have a readily available, skilled workforce that can pass a drug test, you can recruit industry, good industry to your communities. So I'm excited about the future. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I wish you the best. I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you for having me. Any questions? I was going to say, when we leave here, we're going to present a really sharp young lady a certificate. She just got accepted to the Air Force Academy at Graves County High School, so that's a good stop. Then we're going to spend all afternoon in Fulton County. You know, I know we have people from Fulton County in here. I love Fulton County. It's like Monroe County where I live. It's a little hard to get to, so when we go to Fulton County, we stay there all day. We have a list of things to do when we get to Fulton County, and we're going to check every box. But does anybody have any questions about Washington or current events? Yes.
I know you've been at very
Mm-hmm.
We applaud you and Senator McConnell for all that you all have done. We understand we had a meeting here in Paducah just last week. There are still some obstacles.
Right.
Shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
FDA being one of them.
Yeah.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah, you know, this is an exciting thing for me to see what's happened with hemp. Most of you I've known since I started running for commissioner, when I ran for commissioner of agriculture in 2011, and one, my platform was to make hemp legal in Kentucky, and people kind of laughed at that. I think they thought it was a gimmick during the campaign, and then when I got elected, I said, all right, we're going to do this. They said, well, we thought that was a gimmick. No, we're going to make it happen. And it did, and Kentucky was the first state, and here we are today. We're the leader in the nation. It's an exciting industry. You've got Gincana, vertical hemp located in Cadiz. You've got another two pretty significant investments in Graves County, a significant investment in Ballard County. One of the reasons that they're locating in this area is because Murray State's done such a good job in hemp research. I'm really excited about that. But like any emerging industry, there are obstacles. I compare what's happening here with hemp to Silicon Valley. You go to Silicon Valley, there are a lot of emerging companies, a lot of venture capital, a lot of money pours in there. Some of those companies have great success. Some of them have average success, and some of them don't make it. I think that all these companies around here have excellent business plans, are well capitalized, which is important with any business, that you have capital. The challenges as we move forward, you know, hemp is something you could make this conference table out of hemp. You can make parts for the automotive industry out of hemp. You have a plant in Murray that's making hardwood flooring. It looks really good hardwood flooring, which is sustainable for people that are into sustainability, which is your next generation of consumers are really into sustainability. But what's happening now, you got a lot of companies that are in here that are making the CBD oil, and I take CBD oil. You know, Daniel Jones sells a lot of CBD oil at Strawberry Hero Pharmacy and all the independent pharmacies. But it works. It's selling so well. The big drug companies are saying, "Oh, wait a minute now. We sell pharmaceuticals that do the same thing, and we have to get FDA approved." So when Senator McConnell and I were working on the Farm Bill, towards the end, you started seeing the drug companies asking a lot of questions about things in the Farm Bill, which has never happened before. So I figured out real quick it was centered around hemp. So as we move forward, we're going to have to make sure that Senator McConnell and I, that we can keep the FDA and the big drug company off the backs of the companies that are making CBD oil, because the CBD is what's called a nutraceutical. What Merck or Johnson & Johnson or Bristol Myers Squibb would sell is a pharmaceutical. So you have a nutraceutical and a pharmaceutical. And that's how it's marketed, and that's how it's being sold, and being sold extremely well in Kentucky. There's also been some challenges with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I'm very close with Sonny Perdue. He's not as excited about industrial hemp as we are. He is in charge of now governing the regulatory setup for industrial hemp. We've passed along what we started in Kentucky, and I think that he's going to use that as a framework for how he sets up the regulatory process for hemp. But it's not going to be set up for the 2019 growing season. So we're still in an emerging industry. There are going to be wins and losses. There's going to be winners and losers, obviously. But I think we're positioned in West Kentucky to be the Silicon Valley of hemp as we move forward. But there will be growing pains. Or with any emerging industry, there are growing pains.
One more question?
All right.
One more question?
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
This is a great day. Despite the elements, I can hear Neil Sedaka in my mind saying, "I hear laughter in the rain." All right, for whatever that's worth, it gives me great privilege to introduce Bob Quick. A quick backstory, as I mentioned, as I had the vision for this event, we wanted to bring together some keynote speakers that could really, from their experience and expertise, different perspectives, really address, as mentioned, some of the skilled labor force, regionalism, certainly the 20 to 40-year-old age group, diversity, and Bob Quick, and of course, many of you know Danny Murphy, were very, 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 very quickly at the top of the list. Sandra, of course, raves about Bob Quick, so if Sandra Wilson says that he is certainly an incredible leader for the Chamber Workforce Economic Development, I take that very seriously. So Bob Quick is a 1985 graduate of the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. He is the President and Chief Executive Officer for Commerce Lexington, 1,750 plus member, investor, driven Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development organization. He comes as over 30 years serving as President and CEO of the Metropolitan Evansville, Indiana Chamber of Commerce, and as the Executive Vice President of the Iowa City Area Chamber of Commerce, and as the Executive VP of the Iowa City Area Commerce as well. 2018, Commerce Lexington was awarded a top 15 Matt Conway Economic Development Agency by Site Selection magazine, and in 2016 was named Chamber of the Year by the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives. Please join me in welcoming Bob Quick.
Well, I better not blow it. So I got to listen to a band last night, and then I realized it was thunder. I thought that's kind of unique music. I realized this morning I'm competing with the Mueller report, a little bit with the rain. I got up, and the first time in my entire life that I didn't have a comb, and my hair was... And I thought, am I supposed to be here? Hi, Danny. What time did you get up, Danny?
5 a.m.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. I thought it was going to be worse than that. Oh, Eastern, 4:30 here. And then I pull into the parking lot, and there's a gentleman there who's opening it up for people to park. They're coming here for the summit, and he said, what's the passcode? And I'm sitting there going, oh, my gosh, he's got red on. Wildcats. I mean, come on, I got to be, right? And he goes, right code, you're in. And I go, but you got red on. He goes, yeah, I don't like the Wildcats, but I'll let you in anyway. So what's really blown me away is I can't, in Central Kentucky, are we friendly? Yeah, we're friendly. We're not this friendly. I started going around. I was getting a little nervous because of all the different things that have been going on this morning. I'm thinking, gosh, you know, I hope I don't get up there and get too nervous. And so I started going around talking with everyone, and you talked with me like, you know, we were family. And I'm like, I like this. And so all my nerves, we got removed. And also, I love your passion. You got all the ingredients here to be an incredible region. Quite frankly, I see you as a very strong region, but a lot of potential. You got everything here. If you've got the people and you got the talent, and you do, you can do a lot of the things that I want to talk to you about that we're doing in Lexington. So I'm very honored to be here, and I thank you for the invitation to come and speak. Sandra, I just hope you all know, and I don't want to try to put her above all the other chambers. I just know her, and I know her staff. She represents Western Kentucky as one of the best in the profession. She is so good. I love being around her because she's an extension of you all, her passion, her commitment. So thank you, Sandra. It's also a, I got to keep a timer on myself. It's also, there we go. It's also very rewarding for me. My mother was a quilter, and she used to come to the quilting Mecca. And I'd never been to Paducah, and she would come home to Central Illinois and say, this place is incredible. And Bob, you got to go one day. And it wasn't until I moved to Lexington that I had a chance to come over here. And she was absolutely correct. Also, you all changed my life in Western Kentucky more than you ever know because of another person, a guy named Mark Chapman. He was the state FFA president for Kentucky in 1980. And I found out years later he's the one who put my name over the top to become National FFA Secretary. The rest of the story is through my FFA relationships, I connected in with John Block from Illinois. We're farmers. I'm from rural America. I love rural America, and it's my foundation. And I got to work for John Block in the Reagan administration, and it totally changed my life, and it's why I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce profession. So there's a lot of Kentucky ties. And then I got a little weepy. Okay, Danny, don't write all this down, but I saw the I-69 signs. I left Iowa City to come to Evansville, Indiana to change the whole process around an I-69. My job was to get it built. And I came in and I blew it up. I blew up the organization that was there. I created so many enemies, but I did what had to be done because I watched it happen in Iowa. And so when I saw those signs up, and I'm seeing it in Kentucky now, and by the way, what you don't know is we use Kentucky and Indiana to get our governor off the edge to get him to move forward. But when I saw those signs up saying I-69, I felt like I was a part of you all because I was a part of helping move you forward. That highway has an incredible opportunity for you. So, a lot of connection back to you all, and again, I thank you for everything that you've ever done as far as how you've worked with Central Kentucky through Sandra and others. I've been in this industry for 30 plus years. I feel a little tired. 30 plus years, and I had to think of a lot of things here when I was putting my remarks together. I've never seen the magnitude of change hitting our regional marketplaces like it is today. So I want to talk about regionalism. It's our answer to being competitive. We're competing against the globe in Central Kentucky. We're not just competing, we're competing against million people markets. And if it's about Fayette County, we lose. If it's about a region, we have a chance to win. And I'm going to talk about some other things that are going to be there. But some people in Fayette County still don't understand that regionalism is really important. 50% of our workforce on a daily basis drives into Fayette County from a neighboring county. It's called regionalism. If the workforce talent is not superior, we all suffer because 50% of our workforce are people who go out into the region every day as well. So our regions must decide if we're going to be relevant and prosper or if we're going to operate on automatic pilot and do what's always been done. You know, there's that saying out there, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. There's some version of that. You can't be idle. You have to step up and step out and move the pendulum, make sure that the swing goes in the right direction for all of us. So I don't think that the latter, just putting things on automatic pilot, are going to get us anywhere. I've been in Lexington, Central Kentucky for 18 years, and all I've ever known is change. We went there thinking I'd be there in my family for maybe 7 years, and 18 years later, we keep changing, and we keep getting better. Change is what we make of it, because there's been good change and bad change. But when you get bad change thrown at you, you turn it around, you do the best you can to offset it, and that's your gift. Your gift is taking the things that hold you back and conquering them. So I want to talk a little bit about economic development, and just a couple things here. When I talk about economic development, I'm talking about expansion, recruitment, retention, startup. When I talk about community development, it's public infrastructure and development, and workforce development is about workforce. But to me, it's all economic development. And economic development, every community and a region must be in the game long term. When I arrived in Evansville, I-69 had been talked about at least for 70 years. And the cancer was us. Everybody I talked to said I-69 is what we have to do, but it won't happen in my lifetime. And there was the problem. We had to convince everybody that it's not about money. It's not about all of the reasons that everybody said it couldn't happen. We had to make it happen, and we did. But we had to stick in the long game. Before that final segment's going to be built in Indiana, it will have been 100 years it was talked about. Sometimes good things just take longer. I'm not advocating that you must do anything that we've done in Central Kentucky because every market's different. I am sharing our story because that's what I know best. I know how the game of economic development was played in Central Kentucky, and I think there are some things there that can help you. The other thing about economic development is I think it's really about two things. I'm going to really oversimplify it. We got to figure out how to grow our economy. We got to figure out how to grow new dollars. So that's got to be a key basis for what we're doing. If you don't grow, you can't stay the same. You're going to be going backwards. And the second thing is quality of place. It's not just regarding the young professionals and the 20 to 40. It's about all of our residents. We don't want to lose our brain trust. We've got to make sure that the quality of place here is superior. So I'm not sharing my story to boast. That's not what it's about. I'm trying to talk about what we've done to help give you some ideas. Economic development's about a lot of things. I wish it were simpler, but it's not. So It's not an overnight success is the first thing I want to tell you. Our success today started 35 years ago. It started 35 years ago, and when I say this, don't say, well, we don't have that, so that can't help us, but Toyota arrived, and they changed our world. They started putting a promotion and support into things that we hadn't done before. Diversity, that was major, and we had to figure out how to make the minority and the majority all come together. We had to do a lot of things that we had never done before, and then the suppliers followed. And then another thing that people totally forget, and you are genius for your relationship with the UK engineering program, genius. That is one of those things that you have done so well. But UK research was a huge emergence of that and how it grew. So that helps us there, but that helps across the Commonwealth because it's not the University of Lexington, it's the University of Kentucky. And then the Bluegrass Alliance. So the Bluegrass Alliance is something we did 35 years ago. It was the economic development professionals. They all came together with the utility professionals. They're the practitioners. It wasn't the mayors and the judge executives and the CEOs. It was the practitioners. It's the ones out there on the front line every day. They all came together and they made, there was no bylaws, there was no structure. What they did was they built trust. They shared their notes. They talked about what one county was doing and this county couldn't. And this county had this challenge and that one had this opportunity. And they all started working together. What happened? They built a trust. And that trust served us well. So that was another one of those building things. And again, so much of what I'm going to share with you, it's not it's not like moving a mountain. It's those simple things that you have to do to be successful. So I bring my family to Lexington in 2001. I go out and I meet with 400 business leaders in my first 6 months. I had a staff member come to me finally at one point and say, "Are you ever going to come in the office?" Well, I didn't own the chamber, and I wanted them to know that the business community and the community owned the Chamber of Commerce. And I wanted them to tell me what worked, what didn't work, what was broken, what was ugly. I wanted them to be honest with me, and I wanted to build a trusting relationship. I wanted to start it. I knew I couldn't just automatically get that. And what I started hearing was that the business community started saying, why do we have a workforce group and an economic development group and a Chamber of Commerce? Why don't we have one? And I started getting nervous because I never brought it up. 80% of my contacts, the CEOs brought it up, and I started getting nervous. My third question when I would meet with the CEO was, tell me who at the 11th hour will be there for me, and they will not give up on me. Who will open that door on a tough issue? Who will stand behind me and support me? And that list didn't match the leaders list that I was given when I first arrived. So I started calling on them, and they were like, you're with the chamber? The chamber's never called on me. And so anyway, we started building these bases, but then all of a sudden 9/11 occurs. The money stops coming in. Our world just stopped. And do you remember? I see the head shaking. It was tough times, but it wasn't until 4 or 5 months later that all of a sudden the checks started coming back in and people started feeling a little bit more comfortable. And then once again, the merger talk started again, and I stayed 1,000,000 miles away from it. It was not a winner for me, and that's not why I was hired. But then we finally merged in January 11th, to be exact, of 2004. And fortunately for me, I was selected as the CEO. So I came in. We couldn't come up with the name of one of the three, so we came up with Commerce Lexington. And I thought that was a huge mistake. It had turned out to be brilliant because we didn't have the chamber name, but people knew we were the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development. It was almost like a fresh start for us. So then we became much more regional. And what did the regions say? They're like, I know what's going on. Here's that 800-pound gorilla, Lexington. This is their way, kind of underneath the table here. They're going to come out and take us over from an economic development standpoint and the Chambers of Commerce. They're going to try to merge everybody. I know what's going on. So it took us 1.5 years. It's not what we say, it's what we do. It's our actions that speak loudest for us. It took about 1.5 years, 2 years, maybe less, maybe a little bit more. But what happened was we gained a trust and respect out in the region. We showed that you could take 1 + 1 + 1, the merger of those three entities, and have something much, much greater than 3. And I had to prove that, or I wasn't going to be around very long. The other thing we did was public policy. People, unfortunately, don't like public policy. They tell it to me all the time. They want somebody else to do it for them. But I'm going to tell you something. Public policy, the policies you set, mayors, judge execs, council members, county councils, city, Those policies are what's make or break your economic development. It all starts with public policy. So the one thing that divided, I bring it up because the one thing that divided Central Kentucky was what? Public policy issues, because everybody, I went out and I met with all the mayors and judge execs and 5 private sector leaders that were deemed for me to go out and visit to build a relationship with. And they kept saying, well, issues divide us. We can't come together on issues. And I said, well, what are the issues? And no one could really come up with a bona fide real issue. And I kept thinking, what's wrong here? So finally, we just said, we're going to form, this is a very sexy name now, the Central Kentucky Regional Public Policy Group. I know you want to steal it, but you can't. Wasn't a glamorous title, but it really said what we were all about. Loosely structured, there was no bylaws. It was all about how we had organized the Bluegrass Alliance 35, or at that point about 30 years earlier, 25 years earlier. We just wanted the people, the mayors, judge executives, the key leaders from each county, and we invited the 8 counties, including our mayor and judge exec, or not, we're one government, we're not a judge exec, but we invited our elected official to that meeting as well. And only 5 chambers and 5 communities, 5 counties agreed to come to the table. Now they're all at the table. And I'll never forget when we went to Washington, D.C. the first time, and the legislators were all like, this is great. Now, it's always 15 groups coming in before to say these are your priorities, and they're scattered all over the place. Now we've got a regional group actually speaking what the priorities are. And when the mayor in Scott County or the judge exec was promoting a project in another county, we knew we had won. It started bringing us together in a way we had never been together before. Conversation leads to relationships, which leads to trust. Our policy advocacy work in D.C. and Frankfurt has improved immensely. Because we all came together, the doors have opened up for us. And another key step was in 2007. I hate to keep talking about the Western Kentucky influence, but quite frankly, you've given us some of your best leaders. Dr. Lee T. Todd takes over at the University of Kentucky. He's good friends with our new mayor, Mayor Jim Newberry. Mayor Jim Newberry and Lee T. Todd are from where? Western Kentucky. That's their roots. And they combined with the chamber. So we pulled together the city, we pulled together the university, and we pulled together the private sector and Commerce Lexington, and we made this new one-stop. So we had all these people coming, these prospects coming, rich ones, good ones, people that want to do business in Lexington, but they would come into the region and they get confused. They didn't know where to go, and they go to Coldstream, UK Research Campus, and they needed to be at our office instead, or they go to the city and they needed to be at the library where the SBDC office was. You know what? We tracked all these folks, and they never made it from where we sent them to go to get help. Well, that's crazy. So we formed the new Bluegrass Business Development Partnership. Another glamorous name there. Can't steal it. It was simple things that we did, but it pulled people together. We focused on our customer. You're our customer. We took care of you. You came to one shop. We put everybody, co-located everybody on the 2nd floor of our building. So if you're from the outside or from within, you came to one place, and we'd take you by the hand if you walked into the wrong office, and we'd take you to the right office. And it was incredible. The city's funding went from $100,000 to $600,000. And our results just started coming in. The next thing we did is we built, and if you don't do this, shame on you, but I think you have. If you don't build a relationship with your community college, they are leaders. They are what's making or breaking your communities in our regions right now by what they do in the job market, but then in leadership when they step up and step out and have events like this and other things. You want everybody to step up and step out. Everybody. But we created this relationship with BCTC. They're a critical leader, and that's an incredible partnership that we had to have. And then the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. I don't care what anybody says, whether it's easy or hard to build a relationship with them. You can they're good people. They're interactive. I hear them talking about you a lot, Western Kentucky. They do care about you. You've got to have that relationship too. So then in 2010, we underwent a dramatic review. We had some politics being played. We paid a global consultant to come in and to look at our structure, public-private structure, to look at our funding, to look at our outcomes. We were under the microscope. Jenna Greathouse and Bob Quick, they were going to get us if this consultant didn't say that we were really knocking the numbers out of the market. And what we came up with was a plan. They told us that we were effective. He held our numbers up, the size community, the region size, and said, you guys are knocking it out of the park. And so then we started building this very aggressive big picture plan. And let me tell you something, the numbers started coming in after that. The plan was aggressive, and we're still working off that plan with a lot of updates. And then we had to go back and clean up a lot of stuff. So we not clean up, but enhance. So diversity. Do not underestimate the power of diversity. Companies want a diverse workforce. So we went and we enhanced our workforce initiatives to where we have an accelerator now where we take 3 to 5 minority companies, and over the next several years we try to build them up. We surround them with all of the things that they need to be successful. All the tools. We give them special training. We help them with their marketing plans, their business plans, and we bring a lot of product to them. $7 million is what these 3 companies, I think, have earned this year or the last couple of years. And so then we'll take another 3 to 5 companies. Well, that was something new. Access Loan, we learned it on our inner-city trip to Nashville. We've done like 80 inner-city trips. We go to where they're doing it right, and we learn from also the mistakes they made along the way. You went to Greenville, kudos. They do it right. So we beefed up our Access Loan program. We've now loaned out to women's small business and minority companies $19.5 million since the year 2000. That is huge. We don't have the money. We bring all the banks to the table. It's like a lending tree. But we do the packaging, we do the work, and then we take them in front of the banks. And then the banks come back, and all 25 banks can say, yeah, we'll lend them, we'll work with them. Or maybe it might be 4 or 5 or 1 or 2. So we enhanced that, and professional services, we made them more available. Majority connections, we intentionally went out and connected people together. This stuff's all simple stuff, but it takes a lot of time and labor, and you all have to be dedicated and in for it. We also went out and we started enhancing other programs and products that we have. We now have the largest Angels program in the state. We used to have nothing. We had companies that have to go to the coast or Chicago because we didn't have any money for them. And all of a sudden, we found the money. We found the local investors, and now we're number 1. We're now ahead of Jefferson County. We used to always look up to Jefferson County and say, we can't do anything. We can't beat them. We can't. And now we're the number 1 innovation region in the state. It's all because of the little things that we did that brought us together. And then we took our old venture capital club, and it was getting tired, so we gave it a spark. We called it Spark. And we started putting all these things together. We even have a Nerds Night Out. And they love it. They think it's pretty cool. But we did things that we could go out and reach out to the folks, especially the 20 to 40-year-olds. We just kept enhancing the things that we need to do. Oop, I'll come back to that. Let me just come back to that right now. Another thing we did, we struggled finding that business workforce connection. So we took our old workforce partnership and we made it into the Business and Education Network. We call it BEN. And what we did is we went and we talked to the employers, and we talked with the providers, and we talked with BCTC, and we talked with all these folks. We said, what do we need to do? And it was obvious. We talked to our public schools. We now go in and we have pathways. We have 11 pathways in our high schools, 3 of our 6 high schools. The 4th one just announced they're coming on. 3 of them. And so when you start as a freshman, you pick your curriculum. Well, how do you know what pathway? Well, it's what you like. But those pathways, when you graduate, there's a job out there for you. And it's in our high-end need areas. So we're just coordinated. We're getting sophisticated now. This is getting to be a lot more fun because we know we're helping these kids. We know we're helping the young adults. We know we're doing the right thing. And then another simple thing we did, but it takes a lot of labor and time, the Leadership Central Kentucky. So this was... I'm in trouble. So this was something simple again. We have a leadership program. Each county in the 8-county area, they have 5 people who come and they spend 10 months together, 11 months, and they get to work together and they get to know each other. And then just think over time, you got 40 each year. Take that times 10 years. You got 400 people that know each other and they can work across county lines. So small but ingenious. And then Emerge. When we went to Omaha, they have the most incredible young professional program. We created Emerge, and Emerge brought us all together. And 435 young professionals every year come together, and then they do all kinds of stuff every month they're out. So lots of programs there. But here's what, at the end of the day, I said you got to create new dollars, and you have to have outcomes, and you got to improve your quality of place. So since 2005 to 2019, new and expansions announced 323. Capital investment, $4.3 billion. These are only the projects that we touch. This is not all the stuff going on, but this is where it's directed. Direct jobs, 16,500. And it's 24,000 when you add in almost almost 30,000 when you add in all the other jobs that come with that. Average wage, 44. The money that went back into local government for their investment, which is now at 388,000 a year, was 25 million. And to our local schools, Fayette County Public Schools, 7 million. It's working. And I'm not saying that we got everything figured out, but we're doing the right things. And then in 2010, the world decided to come with the equine, the Olympics for the equine. 57 nations spent 2 weeks plus in the Commonwealth in central Kentucky. It helped you too, because a lot of you came over and helped us put this big show on. And then we had the 2015 Breeders' Cup. And I don't know, it was another 40, 50, 60 countries came in again and experienced bluegrass hospitality and Kentucky hospitality. And now we have the 2020 Breeders' Cup coming. $568 million worth of horses were sold at Keeneland last year. Think about that. It's the money, but it's who represents that money that came in. Our economy is diversified, and we've just done a lot of things that have moved us forward. Education is, so let me kind of go on to a few other things. So things we learned in 35 years. Small things are big things. And here's where I want to go back to kind of the theme here. Start with the end in mind. What do you want to be? Do you want to be divided? Do you want to be a few of you come together? Do you want to be bigger, better? And what do those bigger and better things mean? Start with the end in mind, and then start working backwards to build a plan. And bring somebody in from the outside that doesn't have any biases, but who'll be honest with you. That's what Angelou Economics did to us. Be regional and be unified, because you can't do it county by county. You will get slaughtered. And in Fayette, in central Kentucky, we have the same thing that we live by. It's not our words that speak loudest, it's our actions. You know, how do you want the world to see you? And the actions and images say a lot about when people come into your community, what are they seeing? It's not about our words that speak loudest, it's our actions. It's on surface. Processes are quite simple, and then you add people in, and it gets more difficult. Economic development's a team sport. It's about relationships. It's about building trust. It's about partnerships. Those are idle words until you do it, until you get, and I got a lot of scars. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but so did many other people, but we learned from them. Businesses do not care who helped them. They want simplicity, consistency, and predictability. If you can't provide that, guess what we're going to do in the business world? We're going to bring more robots in. We're going to bring in whatever we have to do to be consistent and to make the world work. There are many different economic development models. You don't have to merge like we did. It doesn't make, you got to figure out though what works best for you, what brings you together. And there's that book, Good to Great. Good is the enemy of great. Good is the enemy of great. I have so many people tell me all the time how good they are. And I look at that and I think, if you're not great or if you're not working that way, you're in trouble. Know your boundaries. What are your boundaries? Are your boundaries the purchase reason only? Is it Southern Illinois, Northwest Tennessee? I would say it is. It's even bigger than just right here. We work with 8 to 9 regions all the time in the Bluegrass region. When we work with Louisville, Northern Kentucky, it's 30 counties. So I think, quite frankly, we're all missing it. I think we ought to be working St. Louis, Indy, Louisville, Columbus, Cincinnati, Lexington, Knoxville, Nashville, Memphis, Paducah. That, I think, is probably the region we ought to be, but I don't think any of us are prepared for that. So you got to know your region. Know yourself better than anyone else. I got a document here. I know Lexington, Central Kentucky like the back of my hand. And I carry this with me, and I'm always equipped. Every one of you in this room ought to have your stats that say all about who you are. Who are your customers? And what do they like? What do they do not like? What is your region? What's the makeup of it? So not just to know your county, you got to know all the counties. Economic targets, what are they and how do they evolve? And then finally, well, here's another thing, and then I'll start to wrap it up here. They just had the Area Development Magazine's 33rd Annual Corporate Survey. What do you think the number one thing that companies are looking for? 90% of the respondents all said, we need a skilled labor supply, drug-free, that has capacity. If you can't do it, you're on the outside. You got to figure it out. Also, companies are very sophisticated. They used to come in and ask us all these questions. Now they come in totally prepared. They know if you like lifelong learning. They know about your residents' data. They have the data. They know you better than maybe you know yourself. And that can't be the case. You got to know yourselves better. Diversity. Do not underestimate it. It is powerful in bringing in the right companies. Regulation, sensible and consistent. Location, location, location. You got it, 2469. You're a juggernaut. You are right there. That is a critical thing for you. Infrastructure, build ready, work ready site. We are going to become the largest gigabyte city in America in another 1 year. Every home will have gigabyte speed delivered to it. That's a big deal for us, and we're getting that word out there, and it's another one of those things that gives us a lot of people looking at us. An airport service. So I could go on, but here's the last thing I want to say. I'm not trying to scare you, but I want to make you all very uneasy because, and I've gone over several slides I want to go on, you got to know your costs, and you got to be competitive, your air flights, your direct flights. Are you all familiar with these 9 disruptors? If you are not, you need to go research them. That's in part of my little catalog that I carry with me. Human-like robots. The other day, I watched a woman on a computer screen presenting, training on something. Stunning, very sharp. It was not a live human being. It's already here. Individuals like that are going to displace other people down the line. But so we're going to be living, you are living in the era of human-like robots. It's hard to tell the difference between a real human and what's on that screen. Artificial intelligence. My wife gets so upset. She'll have a conversation with a friend and her phone is sitting there. And then all of a sudden ads start popping up about what they were talking about. That's a simpler example of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is now in so many things that we do. Nanotechnology, a company in Lexington, they make polish for automotive cars. It's atoms that they're talking about, these little tiny things you can't see that go down into the paint that they buff out, scars. And biomedical miracles. I'm a biomedical miracle. I had cancer in 2017, severe cancer. Because of the drugs they have today, because of the immunology, I stand here. University of Kentucky. The technology's here. How they treated me in 2017, just a couple years earlier, they would have treated me differently, and I probably wouldn't be here. That's what's out there that's going on. Advanced genomics, all of our DNA is being mapped. 3D printing, we probably are most familiar with that. Augmented reality, fusion of human and machine, that's right. Human and machine fusion. And then I found out the other day, and I won't say what city, but one city in Kentucky is autonomous vehicles. It can all be driven by driverless. The vehicles are driverless, and they can be sent all over the streets in one of our towns. So, not to scare you, the welders, they're going to be replaced by robots if we can't figure it out. And they are more and more. Artificial intelligence will help us to come up with that scheme to make all that work. So we got to keep evolving. You got to keep up within the region. Leadership's not about comfort. That's why you were elected. That's why you were chosen in your chamber, in your community. Know your customers and their needs. Look forward, not behind. Quit regurgitating the fails of the past. Remember the lessons learned, but move forward. Build on your successes. Praise your citizenry for their love of lifelong learning and be unified and think regional. And as I always say, start with the end in mind. I went probably way over my time, but let me tell you, it's simple and it's complicated. You are the brain trust. You have to figure this out and steal as many ideas as you can from us. We've already sent a group over here and stole a lot of ideas from you. So seriously, you do a lot more things right than you think. So with that, I don't know if there's any time for questions at all.
Yes, so we have time for questions, and then you're standing between questions and a break.
Ooh, that's a loser for me. Talk to your customer. Go talk to the companies. That's what BCTC does really, really well. That's what I hear Western Kentucky Community Technical College does really well too. Just keep up with your customer. Things keep evolving.
Written question.
Written question. So, I said it's the little things. We were having dinner last night and we were talking, and I didn't know if I should raise this question, but I had to be honest with the folks at the dinner table. And I said, when I drove in to Paducah yesterday, I saw this big Confederate flag. I'm a history buff. I love history. I know about the Civil War. But I saw that, and man, I said a little bit earlier, you got to think about the image of who you are. There was a lot of messages in that. I'm an outsider. I'm a friend. But other people looking at that, what was that message? So I don't know if I caught you all a little bit off guard, and maybe I've stepped on some toes, but you really got to think about who you are and the message that you're trying to portray and your image. When I first went to Evansville, Indiana, the very first Friday night, I wanted to go see where all the kids drove. And I saw so many trucks with Confederate flags. I was like, wow, interesting. We had to change that image. And not to battle each other and to fight each other, but we had to change that image. And so, anyway, it's those first impressions. I get to your downtown, and I'm like, wow, I like it. The hotel I stayed at, fresh, new, I loved it. The interaction of all of you, the passion, I love it. I mean, I feel welcomed and warm. But there's just all, and you just got to sit down collectively, and you got to figure out how to make all these pieces work or not work. But you got to take in the little things as well as the big things. Any other questions?
When you talk about the Bluegrass Alliance, can you speak to how that's funded? Is it private investment or state funding? How does that work?
Millions of dollars. I'm kidding. No. So, in essence, these economic development practitioners come together. There's no structure. There's no budget. They just meet. And they meet as often as they need to. It's usually quarterly. And when they do trips to Atlanta, Dallas, wherever they go, site consultant trips, they all ante up. They all put money in. And quietly behind the scenes, because we're just a little bit bigger and have a little bit more money, though we don't have enough, we sometimes subsidize and help folks here and there. And guess what? We watch others and other counties subsidize others. We take care of each other. And we don't play it up. If you come and you would poll people about the Bluegrass Alliance in Lexington, nobody's heard of it. It's powerful. It really set the tone for what became of many other things that we did. But we just take care of that. We fund it. And sometimes we have to say we don't have enough money. And then we go to Plan B, whatever Plan B is. But very, very impactful. Any other? You have probably one of the newest friends and promoters and sellers of Western Kentucky. I am so blown away and impressed. I mean, the word that kind of comes back, I love you guys. I like your passion. I like what you stand for. I like what you're trying to do. I like where you're going. Just do it. Get bold. Step out there. You make a mistake and you miss a goal. Okay. Regroup. It's that simple. It's that hard. You're on the right path. But I want to tell you something. If you don't up your game, just like if we don't up our game, we'll be set back a long time. These are just things that you have to do. Any other? You're letting me off so easy. I did go over a little bit more than I wanted to. I hope the points make sense. You've always got someone in Central Kentucky, and trust me, we steal ideas from you all. It's a compliment when you steal another chamber, another community, another region's ideas. And gentlemen, thank you for sponsoring this. This is a big deal. And I don't think it's a start, it's a continuation along that spectrum of success. Thank you.